Alex, it's wonderful to have you here. I'm just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing that brings you here.
Okay, well, there's a few different projects that kind of intersect, but the main reason why I'm here is kind of a lifelong project that I've been working on, and that is trying to understand, validate, and share information about the lives of Two-Spirit First Nations people. And so Two-Spirit is a term that we've started using in the 1990s to refer to queer Aboriginal people in Canada, and I think other people have started using the term elsewhere also. And so there's a few reasons why, but one of the reasons is because of the dramatically high suicide rates within that subgroup. And so there hasn't been much research, but what research has been done has shown that there's it's critical that we address the issue.
Yeah, and can you explain a little more, because people may not be familiar with Two-Spirit, just a little bit about the sort of, I guess, construction of it. And you've said it's queer, so it's one of those very encapsulating terms, is that right?
Yeah. I think the term has kind of morphed over the years, but in general people use it as an umbrella term to cover all the acronyms, LGBTQI. So generally it's used for First Nations or Aboriginal people to describe a range of sexual diversity and also gender diversity. So because there is such diverse range within First Nations, it covers all of that. So it is trans people, it is also queer identified people.
Well, I mean, the work that you're doing is incredibly important, and I'm sorry about taking the time to just ask you to unpack a term, but I'm wondering, you know, coming here and knowing that we have some very similar statistics, and also that some of our statistics, and I understand from hearing some of your work that your statistics are difficult to determine, and ours are too. I wonder if there's anything that we can learn from one another in this process. Are you feeling it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have a couple of things in common. One is that we're Indigenous peoples that have been connected to our land continuously for, you know, not just 1,000, 2,000, but 50,000 years. So we have an intimate relationship that extends far beyond the present era. And with that relationship comes understandings, spiritual understandings about connectedness, relationality, relational accountability, and respect. And so there's some natural Indigenous laws that kind of precede even human life form. And so I think those traditional teachings are kind of common to all Indigenous nations if you can go back far enough. And so there's a lot to be learned from other Indigenous nations on how to remember, recall, and share that knowledge, but also how to be critical of some of the current interpretations of teachings, critical in a way that's respectful and that is inclusive of all people within our communities. And then the second thing that we all have in common is this whole process of colonization that we've lived through. And so we know that you know, we've not only just barely survived, but we're thriving. So what is it about our communities that are so strong and our spirit is so strong, yet there continue to be groups that are marginalized within our own communities? And so that's kind of one of the reasons why I think this conference is particularly important at this time, because there's been advancements in terms of Indigenous rights, sovereignty rights, Aboriginal rights, but within our own communities we're seeing an increased levels of violence, misogyny, that impact the bodies of Indigenous women and trans and Two-Spirit people. And so I think it's important to share our stories, our life stories as individuals, of how we've negotiated all of these things within our communities, but also within the academic world. What research we've done to share that with each other, and then to share interventions that are really working, so that we can also celebrate, you know, the fact that we're here despite all this.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I know that yesterday when you were talking about this, there were a lot of people who were really moved by statistics, believe it or not, but realising maybe for the first time, and I know I speak for myself in this, that the statistics are similarly shocking for Canada, and I think it is important that we share that, because while we may understand that we share a celebration, I think it is important that we also recognise that we share some of these obstacles. So.
Yeah, and I think to be at a conference that is organised by and predominantly Indigenous queer people presenting and in the audience as well, when we're sharing those statistics, we're talking about ourselves, right?
Yep.
And so I guess there was a moment there when a lot of us kind of realized that profoundly that there probably isn't one person in that room that hasn't either contemplated or attempted suicide. And that is that's pretty powerful when you think about it. And so there's something about all of us that are here that has allowed us to be here and to speak for those that can't or haven't been able to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.